Yeah, I mean, look, we've seen this scam now countless times. Dave Rubin did originally.
Dave Rubin starter kit, really. I mean, look, you can say it goes back to David Horowitz, too, if you want to really delve into history, yeah.
I love how he categorizes every single left-leaning person that gets sick and tired of this woke fucking nonsense. The left has lost their minds, and they're throwing up their hands and saying, I'm done, as a scam.
Right, and I mean, and the thing with Dave Rubin is, I don't think that he's like a grifter in that he, you know, has some different, to me, when someone says a grifter, I think of a person who has a set of principles or beliefs and then lies to the public about those beliefs in order to gain an audience or to gain money or something.
Yes.
I never perceived Dave Rubin as it. I perceived Dave Rubin as just being a simple individual who simply, who picks their team, who picks their tribe, and because one tribe was becoming mean to him, he switched teams. Like, yeah. I don't think there's a grift there. I just think that's just I think it's simple human psychology at work.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the people who are nice to me, and why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
I know. So it's interesting because he brings up Dave Horowitz, who I didn't know anything about this guy. So I looked this guy up, and his story is so insane that if they're considering Dave Horowitz as a grifter, these people have lost all touch with reality.
Really?
Okay. Yeah. This guy, he became a pretty big right-wing pundit in the 80s and 90s. But if you look up his history, this is a guy who his parents were both basically socialist, and he was a dyed-in-the-wool, far left socialist growing up, and all throughout the 60s and 70s. And the thing that changed his mind on this, and he wrote an article that kind of changed him away from being a socialist, was that he was friends with big people in the Black Panthers. Okay. So like Stokely Carmichael, what's the guy's name? Huey, whatever
Long?
The guy's name is. Yeah, Huey Long. He knew all these people in the Black Panther Party, and he was working with them, and he supported the Black Panther Party at the time. And this was in like the 70s or 80s. One of the Black Panther Party people asked him if he could recommend someone to do their bookkeeping for them. And he recommended some random lady who wasn't like politically associated. Like she just, she's an accountant. And what ends up happening is that lady finds out by doing their bookkeeping that they were basically tax dodging and doing all sorts of other illegal behavior. And when she confronted the leader of the Black Party at the time, they basically killed her.
What? Holy shit!
She was found like raped and murdered.
What?
Okay.
What?
Yeah, no, this is a totally insane story.
What?
And so, yeah, no, I know.
Like they didn't just want to get rid of her; they raped her before.
Yes.
What the fuck? Evil incarnate.
Yes. No, it's horrible. It's horrible. And so this is what changed him. The fact that he recommended someone for a job who was then raped and murdered by the people he thought he was working with. Okay. And this woman's murder, even though all signs pointed it to being someone affiliated with the Black Panther Party, it was unsolved, and the police didn't really go into it, et cetera, for all these political reasons. And so that horrible event is kind of what opened up the door to him to shift his perspective.
Right.
And now look, you can say, and he went very far in the other direction, on the right.
Dave Rubin is like, people were mean to me on Twitter, but hell, like my secretary wasn't raped and murdered.
Right. And so for them to look at this individual who was a hardcore socialist and then goes through this traumatic experience and feels this overwhelming guilt and then completely goes in the direction, to not look at that and say, oh, that's very obvious human psychology, what happened there, but to say, no, this guy was a grifter. These people are insane. These people are totally insane.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Like, it's so obvious. But they probably don't know this stuff. They're probably just attacking the guy based on...
Well, I don't know how they...
Wikipedia page or something.
I would assume if you knew who David Horowitz was, or Dave Horowitz, you would know this, because his switch was very public. He wrote an article about it. This is the reason he gave for it happening.
Oh, okay.
Like, it was a big story when it happened. I would imagine if you knew who he was and you knew that he switched teams, you would know why he switched teams. So.
Well, maybe not. I mean, this is all news to me. You're the one telling me about it.
Yeah, but I didn't. Did you know who he was before?
No. First I've heard of him.
Yeah, can I actually unfortunately I have to go to dinner and do conservative adult normal things like taking care of my 3-year-old and stuff.
Thanks for stopping in, man.
Well, but I wanted to kind of address this really quick before I went, if you don't mind indulging one more rant. Basically the way that I think they identify Tim Pool as right wing is electoral outcomes. So, for instance, if he's constantly saying progressives are insane, the left wing's lost their mind, CRT is bullshit, I was a liberal or a progressive, and they've gone so crazy that I can't even deal with them anymore. And as a result, I think that, I'm at least voting Republican. I'm more of a libertarian. I think MAGA is the solution, this, that, the other. Then his electoral outcome, regardless of his philosophical abstract politics, are to get people to either dislike the left wing or to like the right wing more. So that's why they probably identify him as right wing. Same thing with Dave Rubin, where on a principle, if you were to analyze his politics from a philosophical level, he's a liberal, right? Mm-hmm. He's a liberal. He's probably progressive. I very much doubt he has any problems with LGBTQ folk. He probably believes or I know he had his little ANCAP rant on Joe Rogan's things. Yeah. But ultimately, I'm sure if he talks to if he talks to somebody about progressive taxes for 20 minutes, he'll probably change his mind again. So the point being that he's probably a liberal, and again, like you said, human psychology. He was going with people who weren't treating him like shit. Amazing, right? So kind of getting to this fella, who was a part of the Black Panthers, and then somebody got murdered. I think that a leftist who still wanted to be a douche about this person's change of heart in, conceptualizing other politics is that just because bad shit happens doesn't mean you abandon your principles. So what they would say is that oh, well, you worked with the Black Panthers. The chapter that you worked with was, a criminal organization that committed this rape and murder. But ultimately, the fight for civil rights and all that kind of stuff is a left-wing thing. As a result, you shouldn't flip so hard that you then turn around and attack the thing that you were once for because something bad happened. You just say, oh, these people were, like you said, evil incarnate pieces of shit who were using ostensible high-minded ideals in order to cover up nefarious bullshit. And so I think that would be the stronger criticisms. Whether or not these people actually think that is a different question, because they might not have even just thought this far ahead.
No, I think you're entirely right in that they view this very consequentially based around elections. That's all that matters, who wins the elections. And if you're not helping my team win the elections, then you must be on the other team.
Yeah,
I think it's exactly how they view this.
You bet.
Yeah, and you can see this reflected in the way that they even attack progressives and Democrats, because it's not enough to be a Democrat. You also have to be a progressive, and it's not enough to be a progressive. Right. You also have to be a socialist. Right. And that's where even AOC, AOC and Bernie Sanders, they're probably as left wing as you can be in American electoral politics, and they're still constantly cannibalized by their own base because they're not left-wing enough.
Right.
And that that's where it becomes religious levels of purity, and unfortunately a very toxic and hyper cannibalistic part of politics.
Yep, true, very true.
All right, man, take care.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure. So sorry for ranting. Anybody want to check me out? My name's Connor. I run a YouTube channel named Counterpoints. Type in Counterpoints common spelling into YouTube. Unfortunately, I got to go be a family man and live the conservative tradcon lifestyle. So I'm sorry I can't hang out more. But it was an absolute blast. And if we can do anything similar in the future, I would love to.
All right.
Sure.
Take care,
we need
man.
more enlightened centrists around. So
yes, we do.
All right. Beautiful, guys. Catch you.
Later.
Right. Look up David Horowitz. He ran that scam decades ago, but he didn't have the power of the algorithms behind him to make it more credible. And
Changing your politics because your friend was raped and murdered. That's a scam, according to Cenk Uygur.
Yeah.
Wow.
He didn't have the power of the algorithms behind him. He had the power of organized fucking crime, making him fear for his life.
Right. And once that happened, he sort of started to look into a lot of the behaviors, and he came to the conclusion, which I probably agree with, that like the Black Panther was basically a criminal gangster, like old-fashioned organized crime organization.
Right.
They'd basically go into neighborhoods and they would take control of the prostitution and drug trade and shake them all down shake other businesses down for protection money and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Wow. So, wow. Man of the people.
Man of the people. You know?
Yeah. So when a genuine person who was a man of the people encountered this and was like, oh my God, I'm a front for a criminal organization, and he decided maybe I shouldn't be a part of this, then all of a sudden that's categorized as a grift.
And it's unfortunate because, like, when people think of Bobby Seale, a lot of people think of him as simply being part of the, that crazy court trial where he was like literally bound and gagged by the judge because the judge was like an insane person, and not for the fact that he was probably a ruthless gangster criminal who murdered people. So, and as you know, what his famous quote was? Someone asked him, I think it was Bobby Seale, wasn't it? They said, what's a woman's place in the Black Panther Party? And he said, like, on their back.
What? Oh my God!
There's a lot of
I can't believe Cenk is completely like down with this. He's the one that brought it up here. He's the one that mentioned the guy. Huh?
Yeah. Well, no. The other guy brought him up too.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, but he said, Dave Horowitz is like the first person to do this.
Oh,
but he knew about it. I don't know. It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre that they would use this example